Hey everyone, let's talk about the Supreme Court case of United States versus Nixon. This was one of the early presidential immunity cases, and I think that's important to talk about. It's very timely, and also it's been 50 years since Richard Nixon resigned, so fun fact. So this opinion was by Chief Justice Warren Burger. Burger, of course, being a Nixon appointee. I would say one of the most conservative Supreme Court justices we've ever had. I think probably more conservative than people like Gorsuch or Kavanaugh. Maybe not on the level of Alito or Thomas. But yeah, so this guy's a Nixon ally. And his opinion goes into the facts. So first, there was a subpoena directed at Nixon to produce certain tape recordings and documents relating to his conversations with his aides and advisors. In March 1974, a grand jury of the District Court for the District of Columbia returned an indictment charging 7 named people with various offenses, including a conspiracy to defraud the U.S. and to obstruct justice. Richard Nixon was named as an unindicted co-conspirator, and in April of that year, the special prosecutor moved the subpoena to Nixon in advance of the September 9th trial date. So as you know, this is within the Watergate era. It's just a few months before he resigned, actually. So Nixon's counsel moved to quash the subpoena, asserting privilege. The district court denied the assertion of privilege. Nixon appealed, but the Supreme Court granted review before judgment. And so on appeal, Nixon's counsel is arguing that the subpoena should be quashed because it demands confidential conversations between a president and his close advisors, and that it would be inconsistent with the public interest to produce. So basically, it's a concern of like, hey, the president needs to have some level of confidentiality here. We can't just invade his privacy. He needs to be able to talk about these confidential matters with his advisors. They can't leak out to the public like this. So that's their public policy concern. The Supreme Court sees things a bit differently, and the holding is that neither the doctrine of separation of powers nor the need for confidentiality of these high-level communications without more can sustain an absolute, unqualified presidential privilege of immunity from the judicial process under all circumstances. The president has to show good cause for keeping these communications secret, and the qualified privilege can be overcome with good cause. But Nixon's counsel has not shown that, the Supreme Court holds. So they need some sort of a claim to protect military, diplomatic, or sensitive national security interests. They state that it's hard to accept the argument that even the important interest of the confidentiality of the president's communications is significantly diminished by production of such material for in-camera inspection with all the protection that a district court will need to provide. And here's the policy reasoning. Allowing this privilege to withhold evidence that is demonstrably relevant in a criminal trial would deeply cut into the guarantee of due process of law and gravely impair the basic function of the courts. So we need the judiciary to be able to function. We need some level of cohesion. The president can't just completely isolate himself or herself. And this decision was unanimous. All the conservatives, all the liberals got together. They agreed Nixon needs to comply or give good reason for withholding this. So yeah, wonder how this case would have went in today's Supreme Court. Probably similarly, actually, because yeah, like I said, this was written by the very conservative Chief Justice Burger. And so the end result is that Richard Nixon takes a big fat L. As I said, he resigned very shortly thereafter. And so this is one of those cases that's just good to know. I mean, if you're following politics, it's good to know for the context of some of the recent Supreme Court decisions on presidential immunity. It's also helpful if you're in constitutional law. This is probably going to be a very relevant case on the executive, on separation of powers and immunity. So yeah, if you found this video interesting, insightful, or helpful, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Let's grow the channel, and I will speak to you in the next video. Thank you.